Hi everyone, it's Meredith with Soul Navigation. Welcome to my May 2019 transits video. We've got a really fascinating May month, and I'm going to break it down for you in 3 juicy videos. It is so big, it is so vast that I need to do it in 3 parts. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss my upcoming May videos, and look for my playlist on this topic. So in this video today, I'm going to explore the 3 giant Big Daddy power planets all going retrograde: Pluto, Saturn, and Jupiter, along with the start of the Pluto-Saturn conjunction in Capricorn, along with the karmic South Node, and how they specifically affect you. Where do they show up in your chart? Where in your life do these planets and these retrogrades affect you? We are going to peel back the onion and go deep. But get ready, because this video is not for the faint of heart. First off the bat, I want you to know though, okay, when we go into the dark side, that there is hope. There are answers. There are really good outcomes to be had, okay? But it's in time. First, we must crumble. Why? Well, because that's human nature. We always grow our best selves out of crisis. So go with me. Listen, I want to help you put this world and your life into the context of the bigger vision of life. I want to help you make sense of the collective and also your personal intimate experience in life this month, because we are on the brink of an enormous breakthrough. Can you feel it? So stay with me to the very end of this video, because this month is the launch of a most powerful time, maybe the most powerful time in all of your life. I'll draw parallels to history later in my video and how we've been here before and when that was. It's absolutely fascinating. And with all 3 planets retrograding, Pluto and the Saturn conjunction, right now, I'm telling you, we are standing inside a revolution, a reformation, a reinvention. A part of yourself and your society has this revolutionary alchemy inside of you that just is dying for a breakthrough, a breakdown, and a build up, actually. That's actually what it is. So I'll help you see where this is taking place in your life. But in the world, you can easily see it. You can see that we are, now I'm living in the United States, but I see this in every corner of the world. I see this in Mexico, I'm seeing this in Canada, I see this in Africa, South America, I see this in Russia, I see this everywhere, even in Asia. And I can see, especially here in the United States, I'm sure you all can see it too, that we are experiencing a colossal government and political teardown. And we're going to experience a constructive buildup. It's just going to take time. Do you feel it? Do you feel that in some way every aspect of society is failing us or falling apart or trying to fake us? Yeah, that's because this transit that starts in May and it goes all the way through the end of this year, it's about 6 months. These retrogrades don't even get all clear and going forward until November. So this transit is big, and this is going to affect you. So if you're listening to this video in August, it's still applicable. Go with me for a minute, because sometimes when Pluto is involved and that South Node, you have to look at the gross and the ugly and the despicable stuff. You have to look at the toxicity. You have to sift through the poison and in order to find the light. So some of this is going to be dark, but it is also very exciting. So can you just see for a minute right now that we have stepped into an awareness where we can see that our food is poison and our politics are toxic and our schools are no longer safe and our medical system is bought by corrupt institutions. The pharmaceutical insurance industries are completely corrupt, and they feed our phony medical system. Prescription drug epidemic. Our beautiful animals are being trophy hunted, and they're becoming extinct. The whales, right here, Seattle is big into the whales, and I actually follow them on text messages. And the stories just absolutely break my heart. Our waters are polluted with plastic, and autism and cancer are on the rise. You know, it's just so sad. You see the sex trafficking and the hate crimes and the bullying, Black Lives Matter cause, and this, like I said, the drug epidemic, it's just shocking, right? You do, right? So do I. So do I. And it's just too much to look at. You feel so daunted, you feel like you can't even do a darn thing about it. But you can, and we're going to talk about it. I know that people like me and you are awakened, and we just want to make it all better, but sometimes we just don't know how. What if I told you I believe it will get better? Astrologically, I can see it, and there are many, many beautiful things to come. I mean, one could say that when you're living in the middle of it, sometimes you can't see the solutions. And I do think that we're living in the middle of an existential crisis right now. I really do. Now that's in the outer world, right? But it's just that we're standing right smack in the middle of this crisis. We aren't far enough away from it yet to be able to truly know what to do. But if we take little steps, we can create enormous change. Right now, I want to help give you genuine clarity about how this is also happening at the individual level. And it does start with you. Our world will change, and that also starts with you. It starts with each individual wanting to change it. But we had to have it become so big and so enormous, the crisis that is, that we really do stop and pay attention. And not only do we stop and pay attention, we stop, pay attention, and do something about it, each individually, to create the collective. Now, this is what's interesting. What's happening on the outside is also simultaneously happening at the individual level, and we're going to talk about it. So you're being asked right now, okay? You are being asked, it starts with you, to step into and nurture and build and grow the very best version of yourself that you can possibly build. It's hard work. Don't be daunted, because the results will have a cataclysmic positive effect on your life. Your life is going to change. Let's go into the deep dive, okay? Deep dive with me. Let's talk about these retrogrades. And think about where they're at in your specific chart, especially when they station. This is explosive energy, and it's interesting to see where it shows up in your world. But it's extra exciting to see where it pops off in your chart. So let's start with Saturn, okay? Mark your calendar on April 29th. And if the day has already passed when you watch this video, go back to April 29th and see what happened on that day for you. So Saturn goes retrograde on April 29th, 2019 until September 18th, 2019. It stations on the 29th. So that means it is like this giant planet moving forward, right? Screeches on its brakes and stops, metaphorically stops. It doesn't literally stop, nor does it go backwards. That's just how we describe it. But it stops and it stops and slowly backs up, okay? So it does this right smack at 20 degrees Capricorn. So while I'm talking, look in your chart and see where you have 20 degrees of Capricorn in your chart. You need to know your birth time to know what house this incredible boom will go off in. So if you don't know your birth time, you can still know your planets. And you don't need to know your birth time to know what degree each planet sits at. So that's good. And see if you have any planets, your moon, Venus, sun at 20 degrees. If you do, that planet is having a conversation with this incredible Saturn in retrograde transit. It doesn't matter what sign, but each sign is going to have a different relationship and a different conversation and a different kind of explosion, if you will. Some signs will do better with this than others, and we're going to talk about that. But if you are, in fact, a Capricorn, and if you are, in fact, born possibly right around the 10th of January or on the 10th of January, this station, right, that's the day that Saturn goes backwards, sits right smack on your soul. And I'm telling you, your identity, your life, and your soul is shape-shifting if you were born on the 10th of January. Now, if you're 5 days before or 5 days after of January, actually of the 20 degrees, when you look at 20 degrees, you could consider anything between 15 degrees and 25 degrees, but 20 degrees is exact. So it's very intense at that 20th degree. And if you don't know, please put a comment down below and I'll try to help you figure it out. I try to answer all the comments. So if you don't know, or if you do know where your 20 degrees are, just list it out and let me know what your sun sign is too. And I'll try to help you understand how this is showing up for you more deeply if you need help. But this is no small thing. And knowing how this shows up in your life will be extraordinarily helpful to you. Why? Because you get to see what area in your life is restructuring itself and what wants to be rebuilt. This is a very, 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 very karmic placement because Saturn is on the South Node as well, which is the destiny and the fate line. And it adds more fuel to this fire, and it adds more karmic lessons. What's happening is the South Node is like our wounds or our baggage. So you literally have Saturn karmic lessons resurfacing about old wounds or old baggage. And this time, when these old lessons find you, you're being asked to manage them differently. You're being asked to manage them with the wisdom that you have gleaned since you've been around the block a few times now, right? So these are big karmic lessons. And one of these big, giant karmic lessons of yours is going to find you. You will have the opportunity to bump right smack into this lesson again. This is going to be between April 29th and September 18th. And the reason why this comes back again, it's kind of like, did you learn your lesson? Have you learned it? Karmic lessons will totally resurface now. And you can also find that you get to reap the rewards too. Like if you've already learned the lesson, you may get a giant blessing at this time, a karmic giant blessing. Here's the deal. Between now and September 18th, see if you will be tested to see if you have in fact learned how to navigate through your old wounds. Don't sabotage yourself right now. You've already learned these things. So just make sure you remember what you've already learned so you can evolve. Now, if you have not yet experienced the return of the karmic lesson yet, after all it just turned retrograde. It hasn't even been here yet. There are other effects of Saturn in retrograde that will most likely bubble up to the surface. So first, we can really feel like the weight of our obligations is super, super heavy. We can oftentimes feel like just a slave in our world. For example, if you have Saturn retrograding in the second house, you may feel like you're a slave to money. If you've got it retrograding in the sixth house, you may feel like a slave to all your daily duties. If it's in the seventh house, you might feel a slave to your relationship or to others. And right now, with the Saturn in retrograde, we could go into serious self-doubt and self-worth. We might have problems around remembering our self-worth because we are overwhelmed and we can't make these big changes that we crave happen fast enough because we're impatient, right? If you have Saturn and retrograde and a stressful placement, you may even experience the feeling of immobility from an accident or an illness or even an injury. So be careful with yourself right now because it could really lead to feeling super isolated and having low energy right now till September 18th. But the real truth is that the Saturn retrograde cycle becomes an opportunity for you to review and reassess. Slowing down makes sense right now. Slow down, slow down. The world is moving so fast, I know. And you're going to feel pulled in so many directions because Mars is still in Gemini. It went in Gemini way back in April, but it is out of bounds, literally. It's out of bounds. So that means our life force energy is really crazy, manic busy, and it doesn't get to be peaceful, really, until Mars moves into Taurus on April 15th. Did I say April 15th? I meant May 15th. I'm so sorry. So for the whole first half of May, we've got this out of bounds, crazy Gemini, Mars in Gemini, and that's our life force energy. So it's hard to, we're pulled in two different directions. Saturn is in retrograde, and so we're lethargic and we're exhausted, and yet we've got this manic, crazy desire to fix, right? And so we get sort of trapped in between these two worlds. And it can result in a true breakdown, and it can result in to being careless with yourself, moving too quickly, not paying attention. And we're a little bit accident prone right now, so with our bodies. So be careful. Because of this, expanding our goals and our dreams right now can be stressful. So you are in a growth opportunity, but tackling it can be extra stressful because of these conflicting energies. So proceed with caution, scale back, take your plan in stride, one bite at a time, and execute it in manageable pieces. You know, in truth, we really need to reduce and simplify. So this is a great time to purge, get rid of everything, all the junk in your life. Also, when Saturn is in retrograde, remember that you don't get quick, fast, easy breezy results. Delays are going to happen. And remember that this just gives us a chance to recalibrate and flow and truly embrace the concept of grace. You might feel like no matter how hard you try, you're just not moving forward. Just flow and trust bit by bit that you are in fact moving forward. Okay, let me give you a little key. Let me give you a little clue on how to manage this heavy transit that lasts for so long, right? September 18th, it feels like it's forever from here. It feels like it's just so far away. But I want you to think about resurrecting an old project. Go back to something that you loved doing, but you dropped, probably because it was the wrong timing or it was just too hard of a thing. Where did you drop the ball on yourself? Return to one of those old projects that you neglected and try your hand at it again, because there can be tremendous success right now in the revision of old projects rather than investing in a whole new major project. Okay, so once again, I want you to look at your chart and see if you have anything at 20 degrees. And it doesn't matter which sign. If it's 20 degrees, it's having a really direct conversation with Saturn right now. And this transit is going to be especially hard for Capricorns. It's going to be brutally hard for Capricorns. Capricorns have had a hard time for a long time now. God bless them. These people need our love. Put some love on your Capricorns. If you know a Capricorn, I'm serious. Just give them a hug. They need it. They won't even tell you they need it. They need it. Aries is going to struggle with this. If you know an Aries, they need a lot of love. This is in a crisis placement with Aries. So your Aries and your Capricorns are probably having a serious identity crisis, especially if they've got any of those significant planets at 20 degrees. So also Libras and Cancers really struggle with this placement. And if they're a 20 degree Cancer, a 20 degree Libra, 20 degree Aries, or a 20 degrees Capricorn, it is exact. But remember, anything between 15 degrees and 25 degrees, it is in direct alignment. If you're a 2 degree Capricorn, you might not even feel this because it's so far away. Okay, let's talk Jupiter now. We've had Jupiter in retrograde since April 10th, and it stays retrograde all the way till August 11th. And it doesn't completely get out of its shadow until November 5th. So I told you these are long transits. This is like most of the rest of our year. But what I want you to do though now is I want you to look at your chart and figure out where do you have 24 degrees of anything. And I want to make another point here that I didn't make earlier. If 24 degrees is on your cusps, you only know that if you know your birth time, but if it is the doorway, so you could have 24 degrees rising, 24 degrees on the second house, 24 degrees on the third house, 24 degrees on the fourth house. Yeah, that's huge. That's you. Put a little comment below and tell me if that's you. I want to know you because you are going through something so massive. If your doorways, your house cusps are 24 degrees or 20 degrees, like I said before, that would just be like cataclysmic change in your life. If you do have a planet, though, at 24 degrees, it's so important to take note of that planet and how that planet works in your chart. So Jupiter in Sagittarius stationed at 24 degrees. It started at that 24 degrees it stationed. Remember, that's sort of like slamming on the brakes and going backwards, although it's not really doing that. But it will travel all the way back to 14 degrees in Sagittarius. So anybody who has planets between 14 degrees and 24 is going to feel this retrograde. And it hits that 14th degree on August 11th. Then it starts creeping forward. So mark August 11th on your calendar because that's the day that you will spring forward. And if you are a Sagittarius, that's a big, big big, beautiful day for you because your ruling planet is done with its little bear slumber and it's coming out to become fireworks. It's going to feel like you've got fireworks on August 11th. And it doesn't get back to that 24th degree until November 5th, though. So that is another important day. November 5th is really when it completely finishes the retrograde. I know you're going to feel better around August 11th, but on November 5th, it's total liberation. So it'll be really interesting to see in the world also what truths are exposed around November 5th. I cannot wait. It's going to be juicy. I know it is. So what does all this mean? During this time on a collective level, there will be a total revision, okay, between now and that November 5th. There will be a total revision around laws surrounding international travel and foreign policies and airline procedures and religious laws. And collectively, what's happening is we are developing a whole new societal philosophy or value system. It's being rebuilt right now. We're sitting in it. Can't you feel it? We're being forced to reevaluate what we believe in. And don't be surprised to see yourself no longer valuing what you once did. Don't be surprised if all of a sudden you realize, gosh, what I valued in the past, I can't even stand to think that I thought like that. So we will see where we've been archaic, where we've been oppressive and suppressive, and where we have dominated or have been arrogant. It's almost like we're in search for the truth of the Holy Grail, and we get to find it. On an individual level, this is a really deep internal process, and it's an inner expansion of consciousness, and it's an exploration in the area of your life. Look at your chart to see where Sagittarius is. This is the place in your life. So if you have this like in the second house, this is a place where you will expand your consciousness and you will find new truths and new value. So that would be around money and self-worth. If this is happening, if you're Sagittarius rising, this will be about your physical body and yourself in the world. This will be about you individuating and being willing to be authentic enough in your own truths to individuate against consensus. If this is in your 7th house, Sagittarius, so if you're Gemini rising, you've got Sagittarius on the 7th house, you will find all kinds of new relationships, and your relationships will expand and they will grow your consciousness. You will become awakened through your relationships. What do you feel intolerant of today that you were willing in the past to let slide? That is Jupiter in Sagittarius retrograde. And it's big. It's a little bit different than Saturn because Jupiter is intangible. It's the vision, it's philosophy, it is theology, it is your beliefs, it is your optimism and abundance, and you can't touch those things. So it is a little bit esoteric, it's really, really big, but it is actually all you have because it's your truth. What's being magnified is the discovery of the deeper truths that live inside of you right now. You cannot not see any longer. There's so much truth to learn right now, and just be willing to walk the journey and learn right now what you need to learn to make wiser choices for the benefit of your own life and for the world. So basically, Jupiter says the truth will set you free, right? But my tagline for my company, Soul Navigation, is the soul craves the truth and will settle for nothing less, right? Isn't that interesting? And that's the energy that we're really truly standing in collectively and individually right now. So Jupiter in Sagittarius is a seeker of knowledge and wisdom. And during this retrograde period, it's going to square Neptune. And so I want you to be ready to be lied to be cheated on, to be tricked, to be fooled, to be a fool, to be somebody's fool. You will be tested on this because Neptune is going to mess this up. It's in negative aspect or challenging aspect to Jupiter, you know, that beautiful truth seeker, and it's going to fool you. It's Neptune is sort of like the the roofie. And by the way, cover your drinks this time, for real. Like, don't be somebody's fool. At least you're watching this video so you can have your antenna up. I don't want you to drink the Kool-Aid, but I'm confident if you're watching this video, you're already awakened. I'm confident that you will see through it. But right now, you will see that you are developing or questioning or changing your own spiritual and religious beliefs as well. I just want you to know that, and this could be out there in the world, this could be your government, this could be somebody who has authority over you. Somebody is going to try to BS you. And you can stay graceful and just choose to do your research and not buy or believe every single thing you hear. This is a time to rediscover your faith in yourself and in your spiritual practice. So you are on right now a very sacred and spiritual journey, and remembering that is what guides you through the process. This is a sacred time. I got chills. Did you get chills? I got chills. Whew. So this Jupiter in retrograde is really, really, really intense for Sagittariuses, Geminis, Virgos, and Pisces. So if you are not uncomfortable at all and you're one of those signs, tell me what your chart is in the comments below, because I want to be you. It's most challenging it's most intense, right? It's like most piercing and most obvious for Sagittarius, Gemini, Pisces, and Virgo. Those are the mutables. But it's most challenging, and it feels like, sandpaper, right? It feels just uncomfortable for Cancers, Tauruses, Scorpios, and Capricorns. So, let's feel sorry for them, right? We do. We feel sorry for them, and we love them. But it is most beneficial, and there's easier opportunity and growth for Aquariuses and Aries, Leos, and Libras. But they have other hard things going on, so don't worry. It's not like they get all the glory. They've got all that Capricorn stuff to deal with. This one is in Sag, so the other two retrogrades are in Capricorn, and so it switches everything up. So just know for the next 6 months, you're developing a deeper self-discovery and a self-awareness. And I can't wait to hear about how this unfolds for you. So leave me a comment below and let me know how you're doing with this transit. And I try to write back to all my comments. Okay, so I gotta take a sip. This is a shot of espresso so I could get through this video, right? The retrogrades, because I was feeling sleepy, right? That's a retrograde. It kind of, the energy goes within and it sort of falls asleep. It's harder to access. And if you were born with a retrograde, I'd love to know that too. I have a dear love in my life who was born with Saturn in retrograde. You know, Saturn in retrograde is like 6 months long. So anybody born between April and November, basically, really August 11th, but is going to have a Saturn in retrograde in their natal chart. So that's really interesting too. So if you give birth in this time, that's interesting. And if you are a Saturn in retrograde person natally, leave me your birthday below and let me know where that is in your chart, and I'll talk about that. That's usually where something is missing. There's an authority or a father that is missing. That's a shortcut version, but we can go deeper into that later. Okay, now, are you ready for Pluto, the god of the underworld? He stations, now you know what stations means, he stations on April 24th, 2019 at 23 degrees Capricorn. And Pluto doesn't go direct until October 2nd, 2019. And it goes direct at 20 degrees Capricorn. So Pluto is slow and stealth. Pluto is the psychological aspect to the self. It represents the darkest pieces of ourselves, our shadow, if you will, and it creates metamorphosis and transformation. And it retrogrades only 3 tiny degrees, right? So this one you got to be bang on for. 3 tiny degrees. How can that matter so much, right? This is why I say no two charts are alike, not even twins. Not even twins. Because 1 degree could mean so much. Don't underestimate the teeny weeny retrograde movement of Pluto. So let's talk about the retrograde and how does Pluto in retrograde show up for you. Also, Side note, I got to put in a side note. It's kind of a big side note, but it's an important one. Saturn is conjunct. That means it's in alignment with Pluto in Capricorn. So Saturn and Pluto are both in Capricorn in the same exact place. And it comes to an exact conjunction in January 2020. But they're dancing together right now, a couple degrees off, just like that. They're dancing. If you want me to do a video on this colossal aspect of the conjunction, let me know. Just leave a comment and let me know, and I will. But if you feel that the Pluto conjunct Saturn conversation is saturated on YouTube already, let me know and I skip it. There are plenty of other things. This is a world. Astrology is a world, an infinite world. So I can talk about 1,000 other things. And if you have a specific topic that you would like me to cover, let me know. Give me an idea. I'd love to know. I love feedback, and I'd love your feedback. I'd welcome knowing what you would like for me to do my next video on. So I can devote an entire video to the Pluto-Saturn conjunction. It's enormous. It's going to take place in 2020, but right now you're already feeling it. So that's my little side note. So think of this. Think of this. This is really, really, really fascinating. I did a little homework. I did a little research. I was like in a history class last night. The last time Pluto and Saturn were together in Capricorn was 502 years ago. And that is what we have to draw our experiences off of. So what happened in 1518? What happened? This is so unbelievable when I saw this. This is the short story, and I'm not a historian, but I did read up, and if there is anybody who knows this subject better than me, I'd love to know you. So this is when Martin Luther challenged the entire and very powerful Catholic religion and the authority of the Pope by teaching that the Bible is the only source of divinely revealed knowledge. And he created the Protestant Reformation, and he created this thing called Lutheran theology. And he believed and he taught that salvation and consequently eternal life are not earned by good deeds, but are received only as a free gift of God's grace and through the delivery of faith in Jesus Christ as the Redeemer from sin. So he basically scared the living hell out of the people at the time, and his teachings still do preach a real fire and brimstone, heaven and hell theory to this day. Okay, not condemning anybody for their belief system. I'm just trying to draw a historical parallel point. Okay, so please don't leave any negative comments about religion, because that's not really what this is. I just want you to go back in time with me, time travel with me. So astrologically speaking, think of it this way. This was such an incredibly powerful time on Earth, so enormous that it forever changed mankind, and it still to this day controls more than 800 million people's belief system. That's power. That is so powerful. So that's also where we're standing right now. You're just inside of it, and you might not even know it. So I'm pretty positive that the little Catholic boy in 1518 also did not know that he was standing in the midst of a religious revolution that would forever and ever and ever change mankind. He just probably thought he was a bad guy in Martin Luther's opinion. He didn't know what was going to happen. If you are Christian, and even if you aren't, I highly recommend that you study who Martin Luther was in 1518 so you can better know what's happening today in 2019 and what we have the capacity to do. Like, we can change mankind right now. Let's just pray to God that we do it for the better. And was that good or was that bad? It's not my judgment call. It's yours. But the Protestant Reformation was not a small thing. And just as today's choices and values and politics and our devotions are no small thing, they're going to forever shape our future, just as Protestantism did in the 1500s. So listen to this. Protestantism is now the second largest form of Christianity in the world, with 800 to 900 million people, or devotees, I should say, worldwide. So it's 40% of all Christians. That's incredible, right? I mean, this guy brought this idea, this theology to the world, and 40% of all Christians today in 2019 believe it and live by it. And it is their value system. Oh my gosh, do you get it? So we are standing in a reformation with Pluto, Jupiter, and Saturn in retrograde. So it's no small thing. I probably should have started with this. I hope you got to this part of the video, because it's like, wow, do you know where you're at? This is happening internally. But it's so obvious externally, like all of the examples that I gave earlier about our world kind of crumbling. This is also happening to you inside. Right now, you're going to be confronted by society's desire for power, control, greed, and the desire for freedom. So there will be starting right now, a demolition with this Pluto retrograde. And it's a time where we really have a chance to get it right and we can reform into greatness. So where is 20 to 23 degrees in Capricorn in your chart? This is going to show where you're going to do a deep demolition in your own life. And this powerful transformation wants to occur. Now, I say invite it in. I say lean into it. You kind of have to be willing to go where angels fear to tread. You have to be willing to look at your dark stuff. But God, the transformation is so rewarding, right? The caterpillar got rid of his 100 legs and he got 2 wings to fly the world. So don't stay suppressed on the subject. This is your chance for liberation. This is your chance for healing yourself. So remember, with the crumble also comes the buildup. It's a little bit of a slower process. I know. I would like for the crumble to happen on Monday and the buildup to happen on Tuesday. But this is going to take most of this year, and we're going to see the culmination of it in January 2020. That's my video, and I want you to stay tuned for my next May transits video. I don't want you to miss it. In the meantime, if you want to explore more about yourself, click on the link above to watch my Sun Sign series, and you can understand more deeply who you are. Thanks for watching, and I will see you on my next video.